Hi, this is Dawn Olszewski with DOstampingwithDawn.com, and I'm here with another How'd She Do That episode. And we're going to be talking about 7 different ways to color the Stampin' Up! Sale-a-Bration Irresistibly Yours Specialty Designer Series paper. Yes, I practiced that several times. So, first of all, let's talk about the paper. It comes in 12 by 12 sheets. You get 2 of 6 designs. Unlike other papers that are Stampin' Up!, these are not double-sided, they are one-sided, and they have an embossed image. That's where you're seeing that glossy reflection from the lights here. Aren't they pretty? Well, they don't look that pretty this way until we add some color. So let's get started. First, I just want to talk about some of the tools that you can use when you're doing embossing resist techniques. Stamps are one tool that you can use. Stampin' sponges, they come in a set of 3, and then what I do is I cut them down. So cut them into at least quarters, but those are kind of big. I actually cut them, I think, into almost 8 pieces. So you can get a lot of sponges out of a pack of Stampin' sponges. Sponge daubers, they come in packages of 5, and for me, actually, what I do is I have labeled these with the name of the ink, and I have one for every ink pad that I have. And then brayer. So these are the tools that I'm going to be discussing with the coloring techniques that I'm going to show you. Alright, for our first technique, we're going to use the Stampin' sponge. We'll ink it up, and then I like to place it onto my working surface and pull it against the card edge like this. And that way I get some nice shading on the edges, and then as I keep going around, I'll pull more color into the card. Okay, and then you can always fill in the middle if you want it to be fully covered with the same shade of the color, or if you want, like what I did here, is I kept it lighter in the center. Now you do want to have tissues for all the projects that we're using today. We're going to remove the excess from the glossy areas with it. Alright, now here's a couple ones where the color was across the entire emboss piece. So this was a swap that I had received, and then here's a card that I had made earlier as well. So that gives you a couple ideas on how to use that. Alright, so number 2, I took the stripe paper here, and in the areas that are not glossy, I used Stampin' Right markers and just inked those up. So I've already done this whole sheet here, but pretty much you just run it down there, and now you'll get some that pools over onto the glossy areas. But that's fine, because again, you just wipe it off with your tissues. So there you go. You customize this to any occasion that you want. Alright, for technique number 3, we're going to use both stamping and sponging. Now the stamp images here are from Butterfly Basics, and I've stamped those first, and then you would wipe off the excess ink. And that ink then went and it kind of spread a little bit, not this intense. I came in with the sponging and added more more color. I kind of wanted more color in the center of this one, so I worked the center outwards on this one and less on the edges, as you can see. Now, a sample of this is a card that I did here, and if you look closely, it's that same fern image. I stamped a couple times. Now, instead of the color being in the middle, I did go to the edges on that, and this time I used a sponge dauber. So let me talk about the difference between the Stampin' sponge and the sponge dauber. For me, I actually prefer the Stampin' sponge because I felt like I had a little more control. I can always add color, but it's harder to take it away. And I found when I was inking up my sponge dauber, I was getting a lot of color. So that's what happened here, is that I had inked it up, and it was like, whoa, it's adding a lot of color. So that's why I kept the edges darker and the center more lighter. If that's the look that you're going for and you really want intense color, this is the way to go, is the sponge dauber. Our 4th technique is going to be another sponging technique that I used with the Stampin' sponge, and I did an ombre effect. And this pattern Isn't that a great pattern for this? It's kind of like a watery pattern, the ocean or the waves. Perfect for this. So I started with soft sky at the bottom, and then I worked in, I blended those two areas, going to pool party. And then coastal cabana is the last one, and you kind of blend the two together there as well. So I love that look of that. All right, so for number 5, we're going to use stamps. And this particular stamp set is called Beautiful Bunch. And I selected it for a reason. It has a nice solid image. And I felt like once it got inked up really nice and stamped on here, that because of its solidness, that it would allow the pattern to come through really nicely. And sure enough, that's exactly what happened. This is really one of my favorites. Now, this Beautiful Bunch stamp actually has a matching punch, and it's called Fun Flower. For number 6, we're going to use the brayer, and we're going to brayer on some color. But we're not going to do it in the traditional way where we would brayer the color over and it would be even in color. We'd work at it until it was perfectly even. That's not what I was going for. When I picked up the stars embossing image one, I thought, wonder what like a night sky, and how could I recreate that with a brayer? So you can see I have two different ones here. This one has a little more color on it, and this has less color. What I did was just completely random brayering. So here's what I recommend. So if I were to cover this fully, I would get this super inked up. I'd probably run it across my ink pad 10 or 12 times to get a nice even coating of ink on here. But I'm only going to run it across 3 times. And I'm going to just kind of randomly, see, that's exactly what I'm going for here, is just some different random patterns. And notice I'm doing it again without inking. Let's see, maybe here, here. Let's see what this looks like. So I think that's the fun of this. I think that I would highly recommend that you just play, have a little fun. Ooh, I love that. So each time I've done this, it's come out a little bit differently. So this one looks like that, and I like kind of that abstract. You could almost use this for patriotic cards, red, white, and blue cards. Or you add more color and get this kind of night sky feel to it. So have some fun with that one. Okay, number 7, our last one here. And actually this one I shared on a video that I did yesterday, but I'll just share some quick tips here. We inked first, and then we wipe the excess off, and then you come in with the brayering, and you want an even coat of brayering on this one, and this is what the card looks like. Isn't that beautiful? So I hope you guys enjoyed that today. I had the 7 samples all right here. Fun. And some fun cards that were made with them. So there's only a few days left for Sale-a-Bration. It ends on March 30th. So you want to get this paper right away so you can have some fun and play with it as well. So for more inspiration and creative ideas, be sure to stop by my blog at DOstampingWithDawn.com. For Stampin' Up! Products, you can visit my store at DOstamping.stampinup.net. Thanks.